Hello, my lovely ghouls and curious mortal minds. We're back again. This time more for a somewhat scripted thing. But yeah, let's talk about world building and characters in that world. This video was inspired by this video right here that I will put on screen. So, the first fundamental questions that I really have to ask whenever I'm building a world is, what creatures live in this world? Is education common, or is it acquired through hard work? And what are the consequences of that? Does it take place in this world or another world? What is the history of your world, and how does it affect your character, if it even does? If you were to describe your character in 5 key words, what would they be? What are your character's goals? What are their moral alignments, especially writing archetypes? What are your character's pet peeves other than bad or rude people? Here's some main tips that I have. These are just going over I just have bullet points here. I'm just kind of doing this for shits and giggles, and also mostly for my own mental processing. And like the 2 people that are probably watching this. But anyways, my main tips are to make music playlists for inspiration. It's probably just a given at this point. But honestly, they've helped me a lot. I have a whole Spotify playlist of just things that are like the hook of the story, the like resolution, the midpoint, the plot, like the first plot point, second plot point, and pinch points and all that stuff. So to have like themes and like kind of general vibes for each character and the points in their story, to have all of that kind of put together and organized can really help with the general creative flow of thinking and brainstorming about your character. Even when writing it, it's so much more helpful than just trying to wing it. Make a timeline. Google Slides are good. Honestly, I've been trying to put this together. I also have Milan Note, which is also really good. Honestly, it's really helpful, especially for when my internet suddenly goes offline for no reason, to even have a physical timeline. Like, especially because I'm such a visual learner that and I'm not super keen on history. Like, I don't know a lot about it. It fascinates me, but I don't know a lot about it. So I have a physical timeline on my wall that I can literally just look up. So many ideas. Too little wall. And just see, okay, what what events take place during this time, and how does it pertain to my character or my story, etc., etc. Make a mood board. Milan Note is also really good. Link is down in the description. There will be a lot of links, by the way. But yeah, that also really helps me if you click the link, because then I get more space to make more mood board stuff. So yeah. Also, write all of your ideas down. No matter how dumb you think it is, you can always tweak it and build it to be better later. Let's do a lightning round real quick, okay? Make voice claims to immerse yourself more into the character. Make sure your main character isn't overpowered, and if they are, make sure that the villain or antagonist is equally as powerful. And lastly, go on to Unveil right now and make a goddamn account, because that shit has saved me so much. And when making a story or world building, no matter what you do, everything has to drive the story. Avoid fillers if possible, unless if it relates to the story or development of your character or world. If your world isn't on the Earth that we live on now, make a map of your world. There was this cool thing that I saw someone do on TikTok back in like 2019 or something, where people would put rice on paper and kind of jostle it around before setting it down and tracing the shapes that the rice made. Then it would become this sort of treasure map that would often be garnered towards like kids or, you know, whatever. I actually used this method for a D&D campaign way back when, and it actually turned out really well. You can even like burn the edges to make it kind of like look like that old like treasure map piratey sort of vibe, if that's what you're going for. Now onto character development real quick. Well, it's not really quick because I have to yap apparently. In one way or another, to make a character interesting, especially if they're not very developed or new, you should take a piece of yourself and put it into each character, whether good or bad qualities, and sometimes both, to be honest. This helps make your character not only more realistic, but it also might help with some self-exploration. For example, one of my main characters, Ozul Noir, is a vampire who's lived like 3,000, 4,000 years, give or take. They've loved and lost countless people, which has made them the deeply romance-averse person that they are in the current day. They're also very apathetic and detached to the world around them, and now both resigned and reject change at the same time, in this constant battle with themselves, even in the present. I mention this because I actually realized that, albeit through therapy when I was yapping about my characters, and even then I wasn't really the one who thought about it, it was only then that the possibility that I could be aromantic even occurred to me. Furthermore, Ozul themselves is a very detached sort of person who escapes through drugs, and although I don't use those drugs, especially not the hard ones that they do, as someone with emotional blindness in the smaller percentage of people with autism like myself, I relate to Ozul deeply, even for all the bullshittery and self-destruction they do in order to forget those who were once cherished by them. Basically, my point is to add things about yourself into your own characters and look through their perspective on themselves. Or even look through the perspective of your other characters towards that one character. What does that one character see in themselves that others can't? Or vice versa? Another example is that if you put a flaw in one of your antagonists, perhaps an insecurity that they secretly have, and if the antagonist was to be redeemed in any way at the end of the story, how would it be redeemed? If the antagonist is a very jealous person, what would the protagonist do when those insecurities showed during a heated argument or a battle? In this, if you're a very jealous person, and you put this into yourself and put it into your character and look at this insecurity of yours on an outside perspective, or a perspective of a character that you really like your hero or protagonist, whatever, and you see this insecurity and you see your protagonist helping that insecurity and kind of like, you know, just kind of healing that part of the antagonist or villain. I suppose it's pretty healing in its own sort of way. That's kind of my take on it, but it also helps to make the character a lot more realistic, and you're probably not the only one that feels that way, and that can connect other people to that character as well, and can make it more relatable. Holy shit, anyways, there's more about characters, and maybe I need to save that for another video, because clearly that's something that I've been working on internally for a while now, while working on my novel that I plan to turn into a webtoon. Let's do a little experiment real quick. So I'm in Tiermaker right now, and this is just a simple little thing. But if you're an artist, take pictures of your characters and make your own template. Or even if you're not an artist, just go to Pinterest and find some face claims for your characters and, you know, whatever. Put your characters into the template, even if they're just rough sketches or whatever, and list them under something, whether it be from best to worst morality, protagonist to side characters to antagonists, or even how much you love or hate the characters in your story. Would other people love or hate them as well? And most of all, how many characters are you missing to complete the storyline that you haven't developed or drawn yet? Because I don't know about you, but there are so many characters that I haven't even made rough draft sketches of yet, and they're in the next chapter of my book. Furthermore, once you've done that, let's work on your actual world. God forbid, right? This is kind of like stepping on pins and needles for me because I love making characters, but I hate world building. Still, in Tiermaker, in this little exercise of ours, what associations or groups are in your world? No matter how minor or major they are in the storyline, what are they? This is important in things like the three-component theory of stratification, or really any civilization. There will always be a hierarchy of some kind, unless if it's some sort of anarchical commune that your character lives in with no outside influence to sway the people of it otherwise. And even then, it's pretty rare that things actually stay that way. To add on to that hypothetical, it would most likely have to have some sort of apocalyptic or otherworldly setting in order to not have any previous influence as well. And if it's not modern day or another world, what are the laws of the land? Do they vary from other lands, like one country versus another? This isn't really important or popular of an opinion, unless if it directly correlates to your story, but I think that, like, But in my story, I'm dealing with a cyberpunk future, and, you know, it's very authoritarian in some ways. And so there's a lot of laws that, you know, you kind of have to have down. And so my criminal justice class, I have been working on that, but it has been a struggle. But yeah. What else? Because I just ran out of my script. Making a timeline. I would recommend going into Google Docs for your timeline, but I did realize that you can also go to this website, which is just wheelofnames.com. It's basically just, as the title would suggest, a wheel of names, except you can change the names and whatnot. I've done mine to kind of explore how the setting would, like, each event in the story would go according to if it's a hook, if it's a plot turn, etc., etc. There's a lot to it, and so my main thing is to get it all organized, and if there's pieces that are missing, then I would take that into consideration and add more to it that is relevant to the story. But anyways, I'm not really sure what else to talk about, but yeah, oh, fuck. I'd look into magical systems, maybe the 3-component theory of stratification, currency, whether it be the status of your characters or hierarchies or, you know, anything like that. Also, a trope that I've realized in my own characters is how many of your characters are single. I mean, seriously, how many of your characters are single? Like, if you have more than, like, 3 characters, how many are single? Be so fucking for real. I've noticed this in my own characters, and I'm like, oh no. So I have decided to make I've made a couple couples? I've made a couple couples. And honestly, I think it's fledged out the actual story and dynamic of those characters a lot more than before, which, you know, is pretty self-explanatory as to why, but it's something that I don't really think about, mostly because I'm just so used to, I don't know, characters being single, or, you know, if I'm role-playing or something, it's just, obviously they're gonna be single. There's not gonna be any other characters involved if it's just, like, your character and another character. It's not really gonna come up too much unless if it's, like, very specific to your character. And even then, there's a lot of character development to be done when you have a couple, because the dynamic changes and you get to see a different part of your character through that lens. Man, I'm realizing that this is more about character building than it is about world building, but I suppose I'm also just now getting into world building, so maybe I'll make another video for, like, a full video about that. But yeah, I guess this is a pretty short video. I'm really busy with college classes as of this week, just starting. I've only done my first 3 classes, so I'm kind of wiped. I'm already wiped, bro. I'm so cooked. That's it, though. I hope you all have a pleasant morning, evening, or night? There's no afternoon now. That doesn't exist. Daytime? We don't know that. I will probably be going a lot more into characters and stuff like that, mostly because I have this big fucking novel that I'm making, which is turning out to be so much bigger than I planned. So that's gonna be a big project, and if I'm not sick of my characters by the end of my storyline and novel, then congrats to me, but also there will be a webtoon. So yes. At least I hope so, because I can't commit to shit. So anyways, yeah, I hope you all have a good night, day, evening, afternoon, yeah, bye.